some discretion to identify something as being a disturbance to the peace, as they would have under criminal code. The noise ordinance, the noise provision with regards to decibels, is the fallback. It's really where you've got issues where they cannot be established as a clear violation based on the activity in and of itself, when it's occurring, what it is, that you can fall back to the noise. As was mentioned, the decibel readings were provided, they were modified. There was some discussion about certainly the weighted average of the sustainable sound, as well as now the inclusion of the impulse sound. We continue to use reference guides with regards to sound. One that the city manager proposed today identified, again, from actually an OSHA fact sheet that he sent to me, which talked about some of the things that Councilwoman Mitchell mentioned last night, or last council meeting, which is that normal conversations range between 50 and 60 decibels. A ringing phone can peak at 80 decibels. A power mower can peak or will be sustained at 90 decibels. And certainly there are a number of other factors that we can describe and we can discuss in terms, if you want to have that conversation about comparables as to how we got to these numbers. There are a series of exceptions to the provision, and you see them in there. Some things have time frames, and also activities that are exempt completely, and also activities that are exempt at certain times for your consideration. We have penalties in there, which were, as last time, provided by the administration as recommendations. If you wanted to strengthen those penalties, that's something that we can do. And then there are also ways to mitigate those which were in there last time. To be clear, this is a noise ordinance for the entire city of Miami Springs. It's not the Woody's noise canceling ordinance. And because actually, as they give zoning maps to all of us, unlike other cities that have very clearly defined business districts or clearly defined residential districts, our commercial districts are intertwined with our residential. Both the Central Business District, the Golf District, the Neighborhood Business District, the 36th Street District, we're talking about being removed from commercial properties by one property. It's very, there's a steep drop off. And so what we did in this ordinance is have an ordinance that applies to residential and any commercial property, commercial district abutting the residential. So in effect, the only place that the decibel readings would not apply would be Abraham Track, and at some future time when annexation is accomplished, and we designate that area as a separate, whatever that zoning district is. So I'm happy to answer any questions you might have.
All right, I have somebody speak on this, Ms. Owen.
Could I say something first before we go to the public hearing? I wanted to, and I had spoken with Dan and the city manager, I would like to pull this and postpone this. I don't think this is ready for us to vote on tonight. I think, and I am happy that you substantially reduced the dB readings, but I feel that they're still arbitrary. I think we need to base whatever decision, the meat of this ordinance is going to be these decibel readings that we established, because subjectivity, when you get over there, it's like, well, it's not, I like the music, so it doesn't really bother me, so we need to really hone down on what's an acceptable decibel reading that will give the code enforcement or the police officer that shows up something, so it doesn't become just another shouting match back and forth. And the other thing is the average time is way too long. 5 minutes is way too long for measuring. So I think we need to re-look at this and tie it to some standard, base it on something, instead of just coming up with noise levels based on what we think Woody's is going to, emit.
Well, Mr. Mayor, if I may, and
I wanted to let Nori talk.
well, I mean, if you open a public hearing, then you're not deferring it. So if you open a public hearing,
well,
then
are we
there's a
going to?
hearing.
Is there any? I think I need a motion to do that.
Well, I think you do, sir. And if through the chair, if I might say, I think this is here we are at the second hearing of this. Changes have been made. Steps in the right direction have been attempted. Let's put it that way. This is progress. I don't think that to stay it and not do anything about it tonight is the answer. I think to do something about it and go forward. If we don't get it right, we can always bring it back. But at least we've done something toward addressing it. And I'll make the motion for this to go through tonight. 7B.
Well, we need a public hearing before
Yeah.
retract
I
in
think
lieu of the
what he's
public
saying
hearing.
is
Yes,
he's
of course.
she's wanting to defer it. He's wanting to continue with it.
I am.
Yes, correct.
So his motion is not to table it. I don't know if that.
Yeah.
Well, I don't think you need that
You
motion.
don't need a motion?
to not table it.
No. Okay.
You need a
And do I need a motion to table it?
Yes.
Okay, so I would like to propose a
Well,
motion.
first, there's a
Sorry.
motion on the floor not to table it. Do I get a second?
Yeah, Mayor, the automatic procedure is for the hearing and to move forward. And so I think you would
Well,
just,
that's what I wanted to do in the first place, was to allow her to speak.
right, well, so there's an intervening motion to table.
Yeah.
And that takes precedent over other motions. So it would have to, if there's a second, there'd be a vote. If it fails.
The first
then-
motion was
And
his
there'd be
motion.
no need for a public hearing if it fails.
But she made a statement. She didn't make a motion.
Correct.
She made a motion.
Well, I made a statement saying that I would like to pull it, and I wanted
Yes.
to know the process to pull it.
Right. It would be there's action in place to have a public hearing. So if you didn't want to hear it, you would have to file a motion to table it, a second, and a roll call.
Okay,
vote.
okay.
Okay,
Well,
so
well, Bobby's motion doesn't count then.
No. No,
I would
I
say
already
that
retracted it.
It's
Okay, you
not
retract,
necessary
okay.
'cause it would
All
move
right,
forward
make
without
your
it.
motion, Councilwoman.
Okay, I would like a motion to table this, postpone this. I don't think that this is ready for, this is not minor tweaking that we need. You know, sometimes we go forward because it's minor tweaking. This is the meat and bones of this ordinance. So we need to postpone this and give it, tie these decibel levels to a standard, reference it to something, not just arbitrarily, you know, we've lowered it from what was,
All right,
what
your
we
mo-
proposed
Make
last
your motion,
time.
though. What's your motion?
So motion to table.
Motion to table.
Okay.
I second that.
Second it? Okay, any discussion?
Yes. I'd like to give Councilwoman Mitchell the courtesy to allow her a little bit more time. I met with both city manager, attorney. I'm ready to vote, but if she feels like she needs a little bit more time, I think we should just give it to her so she can tweak it and bring it back to us. Because years ago, I was given that, I forget what was it that was coming up, and I wasn't ready, and actually, Mayor Bain, you sided with me and gave me the extra time I needed, so I like to reciprocate to Councilwoman Mitchell and give her the time. I'm ready to vote tonight, but I would
Well,
grant her the time.
the motion's to table it.
Right.
We got a first and a second.
Mayor, if I might, I just wanted to address a comment that, you know, respectfully, I think is a little inaccurate, which is that the numbers are arbitrary. As the council knows, the chief went out and conducted a study of the area. Then we cross-referenced that to sound charts that establish the regular sounds of things. And we didn't go by just one, we go by several. And they're all over the internet, so I'm happy to print those out and provide them for you, that establish similar to this OSHA fact sheet, what things sound like. Regular conversation ranges from 60 to 65. When the chief came back, at the last council meeting, he identified it in here as that right within that range. We identified a number of other things: lawnmowers at 90, air conditioners at 85, and all those were taken into account. So with regards to the decibel reading, we knew that this was always going to have to take some fine tuning, and also the councilwoman mentioned the weighted average of the time, and that certainly we can look at reducing that from 5 minutes to 2 to 3. I will say that finding a sweet spot on this is a community specific. It is very difficult to pinpoint, and it is very much a contemporary community standard where every city is going to be different based upon its own, what it's accustomed to, and that accustomed to becomes the ambient noise in the area. And I'm sorry to say, we're not Southwest Ranches. We are Miami Springs, situated next to Hialeah, an airport, and the train stations nearby. And certainly while the east side of town experiences that less than the west side of town, all those factors have to go into coming up with the decibel reading. So we can certainly keep looking at that, but I just wanted to say respectfully that it was not done arbitrarily.
I'd like to add something to all this. I'm having a really difficult time understanding why there's such resistance to this when we have more than one, more than two, more than three residents who are upset at this. When my kids were teenagers and they're 28 and 30 and they had a party in the patio and there was music, by 10 o'clock the police came and I had to turn it down and the kids had to come inside. This is affecting their peace. you know, and I think that we're the kind of community that we have a huge respect for that. Unlike the trains that were there before people bought their houses, what's happening now at Woody's, and I like Woody's, but if I lived next to it and had this noise, I'd be upset also. So I'm on the side of the residents. I think that we really need to listen to them and understand that they're not just coming here because they're in a bad mood or feel like, hey, I'm going to complain about something. They're really bothered by this. So I'm taking that, you know. I don't understand why we're resisting it this much and hearing it again and again and again. So if the decibel is what it is and it's comparable to lawnmowers or whatever, lawnmowers aren't happening at 10 o'clock at night. They're not happening at 11 o'clock, and I don't even know why we extended it an hour for them. So that's just my point of view.
I would also like to comment that to discuss for y'all to consider, for the council to consider. And Dan, thank you. I know you've put a lot of work in this, and overall, the staff has put a lot of work in this. But this is my concern. First of all, we're basing instead of going by an acceptable standard for a community, a healthy standard for a community, which is what we should be tying ourselves to and going, we're going based on measurements that are taken at Woody's, which is where the complaint are, and saying
around the community.
Right, and this is what we can achieve. No, we have to tie ourselves to something that's acceptable, and then take measures, especially with something with noise, because noise is hazardous. The premise, like I discussed last time, is that you can be exposed to workplace noise in much greater levels, but the basis for the OSHA standards are that when you go home, you will not be exposed to high levels of noise. And that's substantially less than what you're exposed to at the workplace. So your hearing can recuperate. And in fact, the EPA standards that I sent you today or yesterday or something show that we should be down to 55 when it's quiet. Now, that's not realistic probably in a community like Miami Springs, but I still feel, and it's not for me to do more work on this, it's for staff to do more work on this, on tying our standards when we're talking about readings that are going to be taken. They need to be tied to something that is a nationally recognized standard, not just, this is what we think we can achieve in the community.
Okay, I got a first and second. Call a vote.
Vice Mayor Best,
Nay.
Councilwoman Mitchell,
Yes.
Councilwoman Zapata,
Yes.
Councilman Petrolanda,
Yes.
Mayor Bain.
No. You have to speak.
So just
Mayor, I request to speak because this is a published agenda item and I prepared a speech. So, thank you. Good evening, Mayor and Council. My concerns about permitted decibels at the last council meeting changed in section 9903B from 65 and 90 decibels to 60 and 75 decibels with an impulse sound in excess of 70 and 90 decibels. I emailed the noise ordinances of the City of Miami, Coral Gables, and Aventura to you last Friday. Coral Gables has a noise restriction of 5 decibels above ambient or a maximum of 55 decibels in single-family residential or one duplex at night, and 10 decibels above ambient or maximum of 60 decibels during the day. Miami, the City of Miami, has a noise restriction of 5 decibels above ambient or a maximum of 55 decibels in single-family residential and 60 for multifamily at night, and 60 decibels and 65 decibels during the day. Miami measures the sound at the property line. Coral Gables defines it as plainly audible at a distance of 100 feet from the source. Coral Gables updated their noise ordinance on March 15, 2016. That's pretty recent. I think we should drop the decibel levels to 55 in family residential zones at night and 60 decibels during the day, like the City of Miami and the City of Coral Gables. You have the manager's permit system to handle anything over that level. The impulse sound should be deleted as it makes no sense. Miami allows a maximum of 70 decibels for wholesale, commercial, and industrial. We have neither of those in Miami Springs. To allow 75 decibels in residential areas and 90 decibels for impulse is really exceeding the normal municipality level of noise in Dade County. Please reduce the decibel levels to 55 and 60 decibels. Aventura has an interesting penalties section. A police officer or code enforcement officer issues a citation of $250. If it's not corrected within the specified time, a second citation is used for $500. I quote, "If the violation continues after the issuance of the second citation to the violator becomes a public nuisance and may subject the violator to arrest pursuant to state law." End quote. Maybe it was modeled after the county's noise ordinance, which punishes by a fine not to exceed $500 with possible imprisonment. It is very disappointing that our proposed ordinance calls for a civil violation of $100 and $250 only if the violator received a fine within 12 months. For this ordinance to be effective, we need to strengthen the penalties in 9907. If it's not corrected when the code enforcement or police officer notify the violator, the citation should be issued for $250. The second time the officer goes out, and $500 for the third time. The decibel reading should be taken at the property line of the violator, not 10 blocks over or 100 feet or whatever from the property line. I read to you what the other municipalities are doing. The decibel reading should be taken at the property line of the violator. Delete the language about responding 3 times to the same location over a 24-hour period. And then it may be referred to the police. That doesn't make any sense either. This ordinance impacts all residents and businesses, so please put some teeth into it, lower the decibels, and make it a livable ordinance that we can all enjoy. I've lived here since 1958, and until Woody's, it was a relatively quiet place. Yes, the city manager does issue permits for a one-time event, and people do have parties beyond 10 or 11 o'clock with their permit. You've got the permit in there. Why would you want to change it and make things worse?
As far as this goes now, as far as bringing this back for a reading or anything,
Well, that's the issue. You-
don't bring it back for reading until you have special meetings with the people that need to have the help to do it. Don't waste your time on trying to come up with it on your own, because as I said in another meeting, and I'll say it again, you're not going to be able to satisfy everybody or anything. So I don't know. I'm not an expert like it's proposed up here, what decibel reading should be the right one or not the right one. I thought it was worth an experiment to try it. But since that's the case, I don't want any more labor done into it unless it could come up here and pass.
Well, effectively by tabling it, you didn't defer it, you tabled it.
So
it doesn't come back
Good, okay.
until you all decide to bring it back.
Okay, all right.
If you wanted to defer it to a date certain, then that's what because right now, but you just took it off the table and it doesn't come back.
It doesn't come back.
Right.
That's fine. Okay. I just want to make that's fine.
Okay, well, what do I need to do so that we continue to work on it?
Well, you would
Just
motion
stop
it to a date certain. You're deferring the item to a date certain for, I guess you'd call it second reading, with direction to continue working on it. Because by tabling it, we just took it off the agenda, and it only comes back when the council directs, either in this council meeting or the next council meeting, to bring it back.
Right.
Okay, so
Instead.
it's, the next meeting is in 2 weeks. I think in 2 weeks, do you feel that that's sufficient time?
No, that's
do you
not
need more?
sufficient time. That's not sufficient time. We had 2 weeks this time, and I don't know who deliberated with him before this. Before we had 2 weeks to come up with this time. I don't know who talked to the attorney about what they thought in the ordinance should be changed, because I can't talk to you. But I went with him. I understood the ordinance. I was fine to allow it to. It's an experimental thing. I understand that people are talking about decibel readings and everything like that, but that was my thought when it came up here. Now, if anybody from here to 2 weeks can't meet with the attorney and go over your concerns so that he could tweak it to help, for as far as I'm concerned, whatever comes up that is could everybody on council can agree with, I'll vote for it. Because I still believe it's going to be a he said, she said type of thing. There's, like I said before, there's nothing that we're going to do up here to satisfy everybody in this community to get it done. But if you're going to go ahead and put him and hang him out into the wind and Heidi into the wind about how they're going to write this ordinance, I don't think it's fair to them unless they get stringent guidelines from the people that are against the way the ordinance is wrote, to have meetings with them and get it done.
Well, through the chair,
I mean, you got to go ahead and present to him what you consider a proper decimal reading that you're going to accept, because you're not accepting any of his work that you're not accepting anything of his from the police department doing their study, from all the things they did. You're voting against this and deferring it, or actually tabling it, because you're not even allowing to what they presented to us as information to make the decision.
Are you referencing to me, you, when you're saying you?
Well, everybody
Mayor,
that voted
I
against
wanted
it.
I wanted to clarify. I did say what I wanted it. I wanted it tied to a standard.
What
I don't.
what standard? I mean, what kind of a standard is the
And-
attorney
and-
supposed to tie it to?
There are standards with the National Institute of Health and the
I
EPA and all
understand
for
that. There's-
ambient
but
noise
there's different
standards in
stand-
neighborhoods.
There's all different standards.
That's exactly.
But how is he
I want it-
supposed to choose
I would
the
like
right
to
one?
see it tied to a standard, not just we measured here at Woody's and we measured over there and we think this is what we can accomplish. I think as a city, we can aim to reach desirable standards, not just.
I'm willing to do that, but
Okay,
I think he needs help.
I think I was pretty clear with it's a standard. I would like to see it tied to a standard, that we're referencing it based on this. And it may be that whatever standard you come up with, we can't reach that, but it's close to that, and we justify that. That's why we're aiming for that standard, not just, we took some measurements and we think 65 is reasonable, 65 dBs.
And
I
to the
think
ma-
that Maria, I agree with you on that. But I will say this, and I give Dan credit for what he tried to do with
He's
this.
done a wonderful job.
This
and
was
it's a very
not.
difficult
This is
one.
not an
no,
easy.
it is.
No, it is not an easy thing to
It's
do.
not poetry. It's
No.
quite all right.
But if you're going to tie this to decibels, if you're going to tie it to decibels, it's a very plus and minus. I mean, and Neri Owens is also correct in her statement. There's no teeth to this. Somebody could complain that this is entirely ridiculous noise coming from a property, and I want the police to come out and subside it right now. Well, if they're not going to offer a ticket, then what good is even passing anything up here? I mean, we're supposed to just not even discuss this anymore. I will submit this to you. You take a UPS truck or a FedEx truck going from block to block where they stop for their quick drop-offs and pickups, and they gun those engines. That's 75 decibels, ladies and gentlemen.
But that's exactly
daily.
the point.
That's daily.
That's exactly the point. That's not something that goes by.
But if they did, you think anything would happen?
But that's during the day.
That's going by you. You're not
Please.
standing with that next to you.
No, but if you want to say something, sir, please come up to the
No,
well.
no.
But no, I just wanted to
No.
make
Okay.
that point because
No, we're not gonna.
Let me make one.
this is not an easy. It's not an easy thing to put across the top and make it right. I realize that all these different municipalities have 55 ambient and 60 ambient and the county and everything else, but we're a city of 14,300 people. I mean, this is not New York City. And stuff is loud once in a while. And you know what? And somebody said it earlier. The railroad was here and the airport was here before we built houses here. So,
Go ahead.
If I might.
Go ahead.
I have to give you credit, Mayor, just because that's part of the conversation today, and we anticipated having multiple readings of this, not necessarily just two, was to have the conversations that we're having in a motion to table as the discussion and bringing it back. So we have no issue bringing it back. But also, without additional guidance, we came up with something to bring to you. And it wasn't just based on sound charts. Like I said, it was based on some. So we're happy to bring it back. If that's what the council wants, then my recommendation is move to take it from the table and then defer it to a date certain. And we can work with staff again. We can take additional. We can look at, and also we'll look at a variety of standards. Otherwise, it would have been us just picking a standard out of a hat, you know. So
And it appears that the
August,
first
September.
standard that you submitted last council meeting was tied to the OSHA standard, which we established that wasn't the suitable standard because that was a workplace standard. So that's what I would like is for when we pick a standard that it's tied to something. I think that was the issue. The first one was commendable because you were doing with the OSHA. It just wasn't the proper standard. This one, I don't find it tied to a standard.
Do you want, let's allow him to go and bring it back to us in the first meeting of October.
so then, again, my recommendation would be, if that's what you want me to do, move to take it from the table.
We did already.
No.
No, we
It
didn't.
requires a separate motion. You put it on the table, you gotta take it back from the table.
Okay.
And then, then your second motion to defer it to October 1.
Okay.
Okay, so I have a motion to defer this to,
Oh, I'm sorry, respectfully,
sorry.
motion to take it from the table.
To
Just
m-
You tabled it, it basically means you all put it in the council's pocket and only the council can take it back.
okay.
So
So
motion
I,
to remove from the table.
I
Or to
would have a
bring back to the
motion
table, sorry.
to remove it from the table
Bring
and
it back to the table.
bring it back to the table at our first meeting in October.
Second.
No.
No.
Right. Motion to bring it back to the table, and then after that passes, it's live again.
Two motions.
And you can defer it.
Two
Right.
motions.
Okay, motion to take it from the table,
Bring it back to the table.
bring it back to the table.
You need a second.
You have it.
Second. Call that vote.
Aye.
Yes.
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 And now a motion to defer to the date certain of your choosing.
I said, I made give him the chance to October 1st. I mean, the first meeting in October.
Is that
Not going to be enough time?
Huh?
October 9th.
October 9th.
October 9th? Is that date certain? Danny, is that good?
Yeah.
Okay.
More than
That gives him time. It gives us time to put our 2 cents in.
And we'll. I'm
I
not
need
sure
a
if this-
second.
I'm not
I
sure if
mean,
this
I
is a
need
public
a
hearing or
so
not,
moved
but
or
we'll
a second.
Yeah, just do it again.
Motion,
Say so moved.
so moved.
I need a second.
Second.
Call the vote.
Yes.
Vice Mayor Best.
Aye.
Councilwoman Mitchell.
Yes.
Councilwoman Zapata.
Yes.
Councilman Zapata.
Yes.
Mayor Diaz.
Yes. Okay, that's where we're going to try to do it
10-9,
again.
right?
We could have maybe passed it and then put a motion to have a
There's
third reading in
things that
October.
A couple things that could have been done there.
All right, we go to 7B, second reading of no, that was the one we just did.
7B.
We don't want to do that again, do we?
No.
What do you need? There's so much
We have no consent agenda.
Nope.
We go to the downtown parking. I have 2 people wishing to speak on that. It looks like there's a doctor in the house, Dr. Luis Rodriguez. And AJ Milams, you could be next.
Pleasure. Thank you, Mayor and Council and all attendees, residents of Miami Springs. My name is Luis Rodriguez, Dr. Luis Rodriguez. I'm been practicing dentistry. I've been blessed to practice dentistry for almost 29 years here in the Miami Springs. I am above the Milams building presently, and recently purchased Curtis and Canal Street building on the corner. I've been here many years, and I've been very blessed, like I said, but I see certain things that don't seem to move forward a great deal. One of them is parking. I see there's a great deal of businesses that bring visitors from outside the city or from the neighboring businesses, and there seems to be always like a little choke, especially around the circle area for parking because of the restaurants that are on the local. I know for Milams has always been an issue, and that I'll let them talk about them. But I would like to see some sort of either parallel parking on Westward or that parking that has been proposed, and I believe in other occasions on Curtis, on the entrance of Curtis, close to the circle. I just come not as a resident, but not a resident yet, but eventually will be. But I come as a concerned business owner that would like to see a little bit more evolution into the parking issue that has been present forever. I think many cities are become more friendly. We see that in many other neighboring cities, and I just wanted to drop that note in, and I thank you for your time. I didn't want to consume much more time. Thank
Thank
you.
you.
Have a great evening.
Thank you.
Thank you.
AJ? What, do you bring your groceries?
Good evening, council members, Mr. Mayor, residents of the Springs. AJ Milam with the Milam family here in Miami Springs. I just wanted to come. I know this parking has come up a couple times, well, many times over the years. And just wanted to kind of say, you know, we, the Milam family, see a major opportunity in Miami Springs for business growth and development. Milam's itself wants the ability to grow and reinvest into our store here in Miami Springs, where our corporate headquarters is also located. We cannot make this kind of investment needed due to the limited parking that we have during peak times. Milam's privately owned parking lot currently serves as a main place to park for patrons at other businesses around the circle. Not only has Milam's been limited, but other businesses around the circle have not necessarily been able to thrive and sometimes even fail to attract customers who look at the Springs as a destination place to do business. Milam's wants to reinvest between $3 to $4 million on both the inside and the outside of our store and bring it up to the level of the rest of our stores. This end result would add many jobs to what we currently offer in the Springs as well. We, however, cannot make this investment unless there is sufficient parking for the other businesses so that Milam's can use 100% of its parking lot for its customers. Although we say that our parking lot is a tow-away zone, we only strictly enforce this 3 times a year: Thanksgiving, Christmas, and the River Cities Festival, by having to hire a police detail. A person coming to the Springs to do business, whether it's to eat, shop, go to the dentist, buy groceries, etc., typically doesn't know that there's parking available unless they can see it from where they are going to do business. This is the reason Milam's is in the situation it is in. Patrons come into the Springs, do 1 lap around the circle, and see Milam's as its only easy option. In 2007, there was a proposal for a small lot to be built at the beginning of Curtis Parkway on the circle. This parking lot could have been designed in a way to have a park-type atmosphere with trees, benches, picnic tables, even public restrooms to help enhance all activities and festivals in the Springs. It could even be a staging point for those who choose to walk or bike a path. Proposals have also come up in the past to redesign Westward Drive to have angled parking along it as well. To my understanding, there is even parking currently allowed along the greenway of Curtis Parkway that most people don't know you are allowed to park there, and it even majorly floods when it rains. Milam's made an offer that if a parking lot, like proposed in the past, was built in the location of the circle, it would contribute $10,000 towards that project. That offer still stands as long as it is a spot that is easily accessed from the circle. Milam's is not asking Miami Springs to build us a parking lot. Our lot is fine for the size of our store and meets city code. However, when customers of other businesses need to use our parking at both our store and our corporate office during peak times, it limits our ability to grow and reinvest. If we invest in making the store in the circle nicer, we believe that other businesses would soon follow. Typically, when we invest and take our stores to a new level, we see an increase of around 20%. These people we would hope to attract would not only be from the Springs, but outside areas like Doral as well. Someone who drives from Doral to shop at our store would then hopefully grab a quick dinner from the Big Tomato on their way home, run into Harvest Moon for lunch, or even grab a drink at Crackers. If other businesses start to thrive, they too will hopefully reinvest, making the offerings for the Springs residents greater, while at the same time improving property values for all. I did bring some pictures, if I could hand them out to you guys. Is that okay? I just wanted to show you in the past what I'm talking about when we say we want to invest into our store and the kind of quality of stores we want to build here in the Springs.
Thank you.
Thank you.
The cover page is our store in Coconut Grove. The first picture of the outside of the store you see is our store in the Gables. It's a picture of our family. There's 12 of us that actually work in the stores, all Milam's. The next picture is a picture of just what the front inside store looks like. Produce. You have a couple pictures of produce there in our stores. Our meat and seafood counters. Our grocery shelves. And then I have a Google Maps picture I put of the circle where you can see all the parking on the circle's taken. Same with the bank over there, and all the parking on Canal Street is completely empty because people can't see it. It's not easy access to where they're doing business. And then even too, I put a picture of the Greenway area over there, and even if we dress that up and made that more inviting to look like it was a place to park, that would even probably help as well. So I appreciate your time. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Say hi to your dad.
Thank you. Uncle.
Okay, you have a little presentation of
Just read the memo that's in your packet.
yeah, because this happened in the
At the December
12th.
12, 2016 council meeting, the downtown business owners requested that council explore the feasibility of adding additional parking in the circle area to accommodate customers patronizing the downtown businesses. At that meeting, council directed staff to develop suggestions to alleviate the parking concerns expressed by the business owners. Attached are some conceptual renderings which show the west side of the Curtis Parkway median across from Harvest Moon and continuing down for 2 blocks to Park Street. The first block is currently being used as parallel parking on the swale next to the road and closed off by a chain fence. Option 1, which is the one you see here, provides parking on both sides, parallel on the west side and angle on the east side of the parking lot for a total of 28 spaces and only on the first block. This would not extend out to the second block. So if you were to build it all on the first block, you could get 28 spaces. The only issue is this option would take about 42 feet of the median.
William, I'm sorry. Last time that we tried to do it that close to the street, Tom told us that the county did not allow that. You had to come in. I don't know if you remember that.
If you see, let me go back to option 1. On option 1, if you see this is a 3-foot landscape area separating the street from the parking.
No, I'm talking about this way. No. Oh, here.
You're saying that it affected site triangles?
Yes. Tom is gone, but I remember because I proposed that we went as far as we could so people can walk into Westwood Drive through this street here, and he came back to us on the next meeting and told us that the county did not allow to go this far in. This far this way, it would have had to been about here. You can just talk to Tom about that.
Yeah, but this is just a concept. All we need, if council is, what we want is direction on whether you want to build something here. We can always come up with the plans later. But if you look at, in all the options, the entrance will be here. People will come and park, right? And the exit will be on this side. Okay? That's option number 1.
That's 28 spots.
Option number 2 provides for 24 parallel spaces only on the east side of the parking lot and would extend for 2 blocks to Park Street. This option would only take up 22 feet of the median. So in other words, here, instead of angled parking, it's all parallel parking on both sides. And you'll see a walkway here, people who cross over and go over here to cross the street, and a walkway here connecting again to the walk so they can go on that side. Again, the traffic will come in here and exit through here. And this also has a barrier, a 3-foot barrier on this side. That's option number 2. Option number 3, which is the option that staff would recommend, would have angled parking on both streets. You have
34 angled.
yeah, 18 here and 16 here, right? Or is it 16 and 18? It's a total of 34 angle spaces. Again, here you have a 3-foot landscape between the parking lot and the street. Entrance here, exit here. Same on this side, again with a walkway going over to cross the street.
And it would take 33 foot of the median.
It would only, yeah, that would take 30, this option would take 33 feet of the median.
When you say
Says-
the 33, you mean coming in from the street, right?
Yeah, that would be,
So no trees will get cut down or nothing.
Yes, they would.
Huh?
The trees are at 20 feet. I measured it today.
We would We would go, the question is
On option
about
three.
on the trees. We would go around the trees.
Yeah, if you look at the memo at the end, after I go through all the options,
Yes, they work around it.
all four options have the entrance to the parking lot on the north side of the median with the exit on the south side, and all four options involve parking on the west side of the median. In addition, these four options will not affect the trees, the war memorial, or the existing walking path in the median. So that's option number 3, and then the final option is number 4, and that's the one that would go right to the street, and instead of a barrier, 3-foot landscape here, it would just be the chain link fence that's there now, separating the road from the parking lot.
It would take about a third of the green space in 2 blocks, would it not?
Right, that option number 4 would take up about 30 feet of the median.
William,
Now, if council deems this a feasible option to increase downtown parking, staff will reach out to contractors and obtain a preliminary cost estimate so that we can discuss this at a future meeting, as well as the funding for it. Now, I also prepared for you, so you have a smaller one, but you have a larger one that looks like this, which is staff and I with the city planner and Tom Nash and Tammy, myself, and Anna. We went through the entire city and developed a parking map showing you all of the paved, swale, and median parking citywide. I don't know if you can read it that well here, but you will be able to see it better with the larger map. But that shows you all of the parking area. This is just public parking, city-owned. Doesn't include the private lots.
right.
Just so for a little history, this was brought up at the 12th meeting, but Mr. Milam's, Max Milam's, there's a lot of Milam's, but Max Milam's in 2003, 2004 brought this up. This is how long it's been going on.
Yep.
They asked for a meeting. I know there's a few owners of business here tonight, but that night they had about between 6 or 10 businesses came up to support anything that the city could do to help them with the parking situation that's on the downtown. So this is why it was brought to my attention that we talked about it in December 2016, and these are the couple renderings that came up because I wasn't ready to meeting before, but these are the renderings, and this is for council to consider whether they want to, first of all, do they want to pursue it, and then second of all, if they have it, the four options or concepts. If one concept is appealing to the council, we can vote on and allow staff to go forward with it. But first of all, we got to establish if anybody wants to go ahead and if council is in tune to go forward with this.
I have a few questions. Can we discuss those first before? First of all, I wanted to say to the Milams, this is beautiful. Your other stores are amazing, and I love Milams here, but it would be wonderful if you could make this Milams, the type of store that you have in the other areas of Miami. And you're the cornerstone of our businesses, so we really appreciate Milams. Definitely, whenever anyone from the community approaches you to help them with fundraising or anything, you're always just an amazing business partner for us. I did take photos today. I asked the city clerk to distribute these photos that I took this afternoon of Miami Springs, of the parking areas that we're talking about. So these photos are ones that I took today at approximately 3 o'clock in the afternoon. As you can see, there's empty spaces. At 3 o'clock this afternoon, I counted over 50 parking spaces, empty parking spaces around Westward, within a 2 block of Westward, without counting Canal Street. I didn't even go on Canal Street. So the problem seems to be, and from talking to the business owner, seems to be the lunch crunch between 2:30 and 3:30. The rest of the time, and that's on Monday through Friday, the rest of the time, there isn't particularly a parking problem in Miami Springs. There doesn't seem to be one on weekends. On Friday, I had the opportunity to attend the Live, Ride, Share Summit at the Conrad Hotel put on by Miami-Dade County Mayor Jimenez and Alice Bravo, the head of the transportation. And one of the things that was discussed, and there were people there from all over about all communities are facing the same problems with cars and parking and trying to figure out how to accommodate the businesses. One of the big issues that came out is we shouldn't be building parking lots that stay empty the majority of the time. That's not the future. If we were to expand parking in these areas, my concern is that we'd be building parking lots for 3 hours a day, Mondays through Fridays, so 15 hours a week. And that means that 21 hours out of the day, out of weekdays, and 24 hours out of weekends, those parking lots would, for the majority of the time, stay empty. I don't think that's real valuable use of our green spaces. Right now, the parking that we have along Curtis Parkway, I don't know why we couldn't make that prettier. It's very unsightly. And I'm not sure, William, maybe you can explain why when we're talking about parallel parking, all of a sudden we're going in. I measured that today. That's 12 feet. Why, if we were going to do parallel parking, it looks similar, we would have to go in 20 feet?
Because that part that's being used now to park, that would be the entrance, the driveway into the parking, and then you would park.
But
and park
why
on the
couldn't we
other
leave
side.
it the way it is and only go in 8 feet into the median? I mean, 12 feet into the median. Why would we need to pull in
You mean
and
do angle parking?
No. Leave it just the way it is, but make it nice. It doesn't attract people because, I mean, you drive by there and it's this unsightly parking area.
I don't know if we have
I'm not
room
sure
for
why we're
paving.
going in. 20 feet is up to the trees. Right now, the current parking is 12. So what's shown there is going in 20 feet wide, which I'm
Right now, really, this is the area that's being used to park. Right there.
right.
If William, if you can point out where the 4 trees are, or the 5 trees are, that those circles
Are the
Here.
trees, right?
are the trees.
Right.
So if you see that we've gone
here.
and not done
All-
any of the parking spaces to
To affect the
accommodate
trees,
the
yeah.
trees. I mean, this is just
Right.
renderings,
No,
it's
I
not true to
understand.
scale,
But we're still losing a huge amount of green space that my understanding is the city's moving away from using the circle as our community area because every time we have an event on the circle, the police have to be there and we have to close it off. And as recently as the last movie event that we had with Commissioner Sosa and Congressman Avila was we're using that particular area as our new meeting area. So I'm hesitant. Well, there's a whole bunch of issues I'd just like to bring to the council, and I know this is the only time we can discuss together because of the sunshine law, so I think I'd like to make these points. First of all, those are my concerns, losing what I consider to be a linear park for us. Second is that we're talking about spending a huge amount of money and using up a lot of green space to accommodate what amounts to about 15 hours a week. That's it. The other thing is that I'm not convinced that anyone who parks at Milam's would walk all the way over here to Curtis Parkway, to alleviate. You're too far away. That area on Curtis Parkway would mainly be for Papa John's, Harvest Moon, but the majority of people that are parking at Milam's are using the businesses on Westward Drive. So what I think would be more beneficial is for us to consider additional parking on Westward Drive, which is where the crunch seems to be. And there's businesses, for instance, this parking along Curtis Parkway would not alleviate parking